to everybody and welcome. Oops. And we are here, we are live. We had some interesting things as we were trying to come live today, but we are here. So much to talk about, so much has happened today that has everybody feeling kind of good, really. Kind of good. I think people are feeling kind of good about everything that's happened today. And I'm going to bring in our other guest. Here we go. Charmaine, welcome. And we have back Monica, Miss Wisdom, who came and gave us so much fabulous stuff last week. We are back, and we want to thank you all for joining us. So I'm going to go through and just kind of give you a little thing about what the link is about, and then I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves to you. So the link is here to really kind of put in front of you this idea of, as women, we can come together, not in competition, but in collaboration through sisterhood, and link and form a power that can shift the world the way we need it to shift, bringing our feminine energy together with all of our experiences, coming together on a level playing field. As women, we link and we make power happen. So this show is about the issues we go through as women, how we view the world, empowering that sisterhood. And I want to make sure I give you an invitation right now to join our Facebook group. The link, you can find it. It's not hidden. Join the Facebook group and come and continue having conversations with us. So let me turn now and let me introduce Stephanie. Please introduce the audience to yourself.
Good evening. So you know I am in Panama City, Florida. So I am on vacation coming to you live, but I am Speaker Stephanie, the CEO of Speaker Stephanie LLC. I help women break down barriers to their self-esteem and help aspiring entrepreneurs with mindset. So good evening.
Awesome. And we have next to you on the right, Madam Wisdom herself. That's what I'm calling you now, Madam Wisdom.
Madam
Wisdom.
All right, Madam Wisdom. I feel like I should have a British accent as well. I am Monica Wisdom, founder of Black Women Amplified, where we embrace and amplify the voices of Black women across the world. And I am excited to be here with all of you.
Awesome. And then we have our wonderful guest today, Charmaine. Thank you so much for being here. Please introduce yourself to the link audience.
Hello, everyone. I am Charmaine. I'm a love strategist. So I have a company called Woo Forever, and I work primarily with anyone, and we talk about self-love. Like, how do we look inward first? How do we take care of ourselves and our well-being so that we can go out into the world and show more love? So I'm glad to be here, and thank you for inviting me to be here.
Well, thank you so much for taking the invitation and coming to link with us. It's a fabulous thing. Absolutely fabulous. Leslie, so glad to see you this week.
I know. I'm glad to be back. My daughter turned 4 this weekend, so it was like all hands on deck. I made a 6-layer rainbow cake, you guys.
Wow.
My huge mommy points.
6 layers. My name is Leslie. My business card says facilitator, storyteller, life enthusiast. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. I like to find things in life that teach me about myself or can help other people see things differently. And then I share those stories when I facilitate or train, usually inside corporate America. But every once in a while, someone hires me as a private coach, and that's fun too. So that's my jam.
Awesome. And Andrea, Dr. Andrea. And you're still in the orange room. Yes.
I'm still in the orange room, yes. Good. Hi, my name is Adriana. I am the resident neuroscientist, and I'm a writer and storyteller, and I love speaking both from the brain and from the heart. So that's why I love spending time here with you guys.
I love that, from the brain and from the heart. That is so wonderful. So we are here today, and we have to, before we even get into our so-called agenda, we have to talk about what happened today, because it was monumental. It was historical. And if we didn't, we would be amiss not to mention it, that we are all, I'm sure, ecstatic to see that that officer was actually held guilty on all 3 counts. I mean, I popped into Clubhouse just briefly while I was doing some stuff up for the show. And I was listening to someone who said they were happy about the verdict, but watching it brought back the anxiety that she has for her 5-year-old son.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, there's somebody being really honest and transparent and extremely, a professional woman, right? But still, even in that moment where she's just watching from a distance and her child is right there, there's still the fear factor that comes up, because as you listen to the commentators, one of the things that they said was there's still so much left to do. So this is one, but it's only one, and there's a lot left. How do you feel as women, right? And all of you having, nieces, nephews, children, and, some of you have boys too, right? How do you feel today from a female perspective when you look at this? What does it mean? What does it mean to you today? And what does it mean to you for tomorrow? Who wants to take it?
I'll take it. This is Stephanie. So somebody posted, I don't know if one of the sites, it said, we were afraid to hope because we've been here before, right? And this, it's almost like, is it for real? Like, is this like, is this really what the verdict was? Or is this just some kind of harsh joke? Because we've been here and, it was clear, the writing was on the wall, it was a no-brainer, but yet it was a not guilty verdict. So for many, it was a sigh of relief, but yet it was, for me, I'm kind of like, I'm very pleased, but I hope this is the start of change, of everybody just being held accountable, and us as a nation, as a world, being comfortable with accountability fully.
Yeah, that's good. Us as a world.
Well, Stephanie, I have a question for you. You are a retired law enforcement officer, right?
Correct.
Do you think it is necessary to do a kind of reform that focuses more on education and sensibilization than being more punitive?
Say it again. You think it's more, for education?
Would you prefer more strict rules, or would you prefer more education to our law enforcement officers?
I would prefer both.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna tell you what I would prefer the most, actually, Adriana, is accountability.
Mm-hmm.
See, we're not dealing with, here's the deal, you all know this. It's easier to change policy than it is to change a culture. This is a culture issue. And we also have to be careful, no matter what group it is, not to lump everybody in there together. Right? But as Professor Stephanie Wall says, here's the deal. It's like we like to hear folks like to say this, the bad apples. Well, we have a bad apple problem or a bad barrel. Right? Is it the tree or is it the apples? And so I think that we have to deal with the culture. I think we have to own it. I think it's going to be really difficult this is difficult for a lot of law enforcement, because for a long time they have not experienced being discriminated against or feeling like they're being discriminated against. Can I say that? That's right. The feeling of being discriminated against, it doesn't feel good, right? For somebody to be pointing the finger at you because of what somebody else did. But the reality is, it's exhausting. But let me just tell you, as Miss Maxine Waters and other people have said, right? Is the woman, one of the jurors said, they asked, what does she think about Black Lives Matter? And did she agree with it? Yes, I agree with it. I'm Black and I matter. So I absolutely think that we all matter. But I think right now, as a nation, it's so important for that message to be real and everybody to really believe it and operate as such. And if that means that we have to change policy and put some strict rules in place and do a lot of education, if that's what needs to happen, then let's go for it. But it can't just be law enforcement. Because see, I'm going to tell you, the culture is not just in the building and the people that wear the uniform. This is the culture of this nation. This is the history of the nation. This is not new. None of this is new. As Will Smith said, none of this is new. We're just seeing it now on video more often. It's a hard pill to swallow for everybody. Trust me. Yeah, I'm devastated. It's not new to me. Before I was law enforcement and now. It's a hard pill to swallow because of the profession that I retired from. It's like, how many people, like, if somebody is in your group, in your culture, do something, you're like, man, they set us back 1,000 years, right? Well, that happens for me, for people of color, women, law enforcement, anything that's related to anything that people know me for. So does that make, I know it's a long answer, but I thought it needed to be said. So, but Adrian, I think it's a lot of work to be done. I don't know that it will be 100% anything, even in my lifetime and yours either.
Thank you for that answer. Yes. So the first reference, that, of course, a lot of the reference that I have are not from the United States because I did not grow up in this country. So my personal experiences come from other cultures. But also my experiences come from a culture that is being known for having a lot of violence in it. And one of the things, and one of the reasons why I bring this up is not trying to be like teary-eyed and optimistic, but because what we saw in small pieces, unfortunately, because there was no universal policy, there was something that, for example, I'm from Cali, Colombia. And if you have watched Narcos, you know where I am from, right? So you know how things could be really bad at some point. And unfortunately, what infected the culture was that culture of violence. That was the most important part of it. It's not about the drugs, it's not about the politics, it's about the culture of violence. But one thing that for a while made things change a lot was something that was called restorative justice, where people were simply, instead of being taken to court or to jail, they were first taken into mediation, even if it was a violent crime. Let's say it was a stabbing. Somebody got in a fight with someone else and it ended up in a stabbing. And then instead of automatically going for incarceration and punishment, they went for mediation. And turns out people have not heard that there's a way to solve things without stabbing each other. Like, they really have not heard of the possibility because it's so inside the culture. The fact that you have to respond so violently, it's so encrusted in the culture that people simply have not been taught a different way. And unfortunately, it did not become a universal policy because, you know, politics and who's handling the money for the programs and stuff like that. But it did make a big difference in many communities. So it did not require a bigger blanket policy for everyone. It required smaller groups working with smaller communities and simply teaching people that there were other ways to do things instead of directly going the most aggressive way. So I guess that's why I'm a big supporter of that kind of attitude and that kind of programs. Like, I understand accountability. I think is incredibly important. I think everybody's absolutely responsible for everything that they do. But also, it is so true that people don't know how to act. And it sounds, when you have grown in a very clean environment, for example, like my family was a very clean environment where there was no violence and stuff like that, it sounds weird to me that other people don't understand that there's a way to interact with each other without beating each other up. But it is true that there are areas where people just don't know it. And that's how the family works. And then from there, that's how the community works. And then they need just to be taught there are options outside of this.
Right. Okay, so I will tell you that, all right, so, you know, and I'm sure it's the same in Colombia, here in the United States, United States of America, right? Because, you know, there's America's two things, but the criminal justice system comprises of the police department, as you know, the courts, and the prison system. Three separate entities. And so the criminal justice, the prison system, they are really, in fact, I just read something the other day, they're trying to once again implement where they're starting in Maryland anyway, where they're allowing inmates to obtain college degrees and things of that nature, because they're supposed to be reformed. So if you keep giving them the same thing and expecting the same, you're going to keep getting the same results, and they're just going to learn a new trick and come out worse than they went in. So they're trying to do some different things there to prevent recidivism, right? However, so that's that part. But what the problem that we're facing as a nation here in the United States, the biggest problem is not so much as the people don't understand the policies, but those who are in charge of enforcing the laws and keeping the peace. The peacemakers are not always bringing the peace. So we got to deal with you follow what I'm saying? So it's the politics is this bad. We got to carve out that. Yeah.
My husband was telling me an interesting statistic yesterday that the US has the biggest military budget in the world. Next is China. And number 3 is the US police force system. So when you think of the police force being militarized, like it makes them think like the enemy is out there, the bad guy. Like instead of protecting and serving, to me it seems like we've given them all these weapons and these tactical vehicles. Like that doesn't seem like the right approach for a police force. For the military maybe, but not for a police force. So I'm really curious, like how that affects people's thinking when you give them, big guns and big tactical vehicles. Are they out looking for people to be wrong and that must be gone?
That militarizing of the police is
that's the scary part to me. Like,
correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie, but that's a new phenomenon. We used to have community policing. The policing and the militarized pieces is a new thing. It's a program that happened later on. It's not even, I don't even believe it's 10 years old.
No,
if it's right at 10 years. So, but these killings have been happening my whole life, and I'm 52, and my parents' whole life, rest their soul, they would be in their 80s, and my grandparents and my great-grandparents. So this is nothing new. So it doesn't matter what the equipment is. It doesn't matter the tactics. It matters the system, as Stephanie was trying to explain. The system, if you know the history of policing, is doing exactly what it was designed to do. The policing started with the protection of white people and property from Black people, enslaved people. And that's a system that is still in place. And so because that system is still in place, today is a phenomenon. Because the police have always been protected. So that's where the education piece is. People need to understand the system of policing that is in place. And the understanding that there's a distinction between citizens and violence amongst citizens and the violence among police and citizens. That's a separate issue because police officers are hired to protect and to serve. And when they don't protect the people that hire them to protect them, then there's a problem in the system. Because at the end of the day, the police officers are not, they have a boss, the police officer's boss has a boss, the police officer's boss has a boss. So it's not just the officers, it's the entire system that has to be recalibrated beyond just reform. It has to be recalibrated. And education is, and in my opinion, I come from all different sides. I've had police in my family and I've been a protester. So I know, and I've learned a lot in the past 6 years. And what I do understand for police officers is they don't get enough training, in my opinion. Because I know in our state, they get 600 hours of training. And if you're taking a young kid, and the requirements are only a GED or equivalent, and to be 20 and a half. I would never give my 20-year-old godson a car and a gun and expect him to understand the environment that he's walking into. He can barely, he can figure out a game, but I just think it's too much responsibility for a young person that hasn't had ample amount of life training. Just life experience.
What I refer to when I talk about education. So I ended up talking about the communities, but I think there's a very, very severe need of education of the law enforcement officers.
Yes, there also needs to be.
The required education is very short. It's just not enough, neither to understand the system nor to understand how to handle a community. You know, because you're supposed to know how to handle a community. I don't think they can. I don't think they get enough resources.
Well, that's I'm gonna push back on that. That's not true because you don't see these killings happening across the board. If it was happening to every group of citizens, then I would say yes, it's that. But this is a specific group. You know, when you're talking about the percentage is much higher with Black people than it is with white people. You can't really say that they don't have the training if they can apprehend somebody who just shot up church people and take them to Burger King to get a sandwich because they're hungry.
Literally.
Literally. I mean, I'm not, this is not a joke, but literally, or somebody can shoot up a movie theater and they can apprehend them and they get, I can't think of the word, but what is it? I can't think of the word. I get real passionate about this. I'm sorry. But they get a due process. A serial killer gets due process. A Black man gets an instant death sentence. It's the same group of people. So it's a system. I'll just leave it at that. But I think it's important that we discuss this and invite everybody to, one, watch 13th.
Yes.
The Netflix.
Please watch 13th.
Please watch 13th. Read the new Jim Crow.
Yes.
Watch I Am Not Your Negro, the James Baldwin documentary. And
oh my gosh, it's a whole bunch of them. What else you got?
I know.
I feel like I gotta type it in. So you're gonna have to come back with. You're gonna have to say that again, so okay. I can actually type it because I need to put these books in. So.
I wish I was home literally so I could just turn around and look at my bookshelf because there is a.
But there's things about this country that's the reckoning, the education of the true education of this country. That's the reckoning that we have to have. Mm-hmm. And it's not just officers because we do have a culture of violence, period. But we also have to recognize the genesis of the violence in this country. And until we really do that, it's just Band-Aid on top of Band-Aid on top of Band-Aid.
And it's as you said, it's the system.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't, even if you did police reform,
yes,
then you're going to need to do complete criminal justice reform.
Yes, 100%.
And there has to be an educational piece because we have a culture problem, and it's not just internal.
Yes,
it's a country problem. Are you guys with me here?
Oh, I'm 100%.
There's an acceptance, and I must say that, and I'm passionate about this for myself, which is right. And I've always, even as a police officer and even as the commander, I would always get the question, and my answer has always been the same from the beginning until now. I make no excuses for bad behavior. Mm-hmm. None. I have none. And I think, as a matter of fact, I know that as a nation, if we never made excuses from the beginning, but that we held everyone accountable to the same standard, particularly in all cases, right? But particularly in these type of instances, it should never have been like, it should have been when we see something like that, no matter who is doing it, we like, we already know what the answer is going to be.
Right.
But when it came to some places, you're like, right? It was like, maybe they're not gonna, maybe something will happen, maybe it won't. And that's uncool. But let me just explain to you this. I was a law enforcement officer, and if I did any of those things, that wouldn't have been a case. It wouldn't have been a long, drawn-out trial. It wouldn't have been any of those things. I would have been going to jail, and I would have known I was going to jail, right? But guess what else? I wouldn't have done it.
Right.
I would have never. That would have been. I wouldn't have done it, and it just wouldn't even have crossed my mind to do any of it. Nothing. My husband and I, both law enforcement. He's still law. I watched that, and I was horrified, like what, screaming at the television. What in the name of God? None of that is protocol. And let me tell you, one of the things I wanted to say, Monica, is this: police get a lot. It's not equal across the board. It all depends on where you live and where you are in the world. Small agencies, small town USA.
Mm.
You know, it is a lot of everything. Uncle so and so hired little Johnny and all of everybody and their grandma, but they got no kind of training, no kind of nothing. But they're not really some of them are volunteer police officers. Matter of fact, one guy killed. Remember, he was a volunteer police officer, no training. But training, education, great. But who are the people? They came to the department with a mentality, with a culture, with a history, with experience, and with a mindset. It's about mindset. And so, I mean, I can go on and on and on, but I'm gonna get off of this one, but I just wanted to tell you that today, answer to your question, as a mother, and a wife of three awesome, pick a word, pick a term, African American, Black person, men of color, I am ecstatic that this man is being held accountable for the atrocity, the murder that he caused. And I am done speaking, as if I'm on Clubhouse, but yes.
And I am complete.
I am complete.
Charmaine, coming in, and you talk about love, right? When you look at that, do you think, I remember listening to an interview by James Baldwin. It's a really old interview. And he said that he felt one of the reasons why the violence was so bad, and I mean, this is going back, his interview would have been 60s.
In the 60s.
Mm-hmm. 60s, okay? Is that he felt there wasn't a love inside of a white man for himself. There was fear inside of him versus love inside of him, which is why he acted out the way he did, which I thought was a very interesting kind of thing to say, right? So when you think about how people act when they love themselves versus when they don't love themselves, do you see any of that? Maybe?
I do, and thank you for that question. I am, of course, a huge fan of James Baldwin. He says things like, love is a battle, love is a war, love is a growing up. He says things like, he has a short video where he says, love has never really been a popular movement, and it is held together by very few people, because love requires us to really grow up. And what does that look like? I think, and so as I answer your question, first, I think love has gotten an undeservedly bad rap. We use it for everything, right? We love this, we love that, we love you, we love that, we take love away. But if we peel back, which is what I've been doing for over a decade, peel back what it actually means to love, when we come to a place where we now address what happened in this George Floyd case, we have to look at, first we tell the truth. And so what I've been hearing with all of you is we're telling the truth about what's really going on before a police officer or anyone else puts on their uniform to go out to work. What is their love already? Like me, I'm looking at all of it. I'm looking at who we show up as in our homes and outside of our home. So when we dive into this idea of love, we really have to search here first. It is not airy fairy. It is not rainbows and unicorns. It is dying of ego and hooked on stories of othering other people. And it is us coming together and understanding our biases and removing them. There's a poet, Rumi, that I love, and he says that we don't have to look for love. It's here. We have to look for all the ways we've built against it. So we are holding generations and generations of a story of othering ourselves, and it has led us to here. And so my idea of love is reimagining the world and what our ancestors fought for us to be free and heal. It's going to be uncomfortable things like seeing this officer go to jail because he needs to be held accountable for what he's done. And we have to recognize the pain that it has caused all of us. The pain that it has perhaps caused, of course, the Floyd family. But look at what is going to happen to this man and his family, right? We are all connected. I don't know George Floyd personally, but it hit me hard, right? So when James Baldwin says that he feels fear inside of him, I very much get that. When I see a police car come behind me, I am anxious because you just don't know, right? And so I don't think white people necessarily, I don't want to speak, this is broad, I don't want to speak to their fear, but the fear of the presence of even a police officer anywhere in my area, right, scares me. And so I understand very deeply what he means. But as I reimagine the world, I think if we center love in what it really means to love, it is hard work. It is not something that we just throw out and say we can do. And I think the idea that we all think we are innately loving is not true. Because if that were true, we wouldn't have these issues. We choose to love. We choose to show up in love. We choose to take that journey of love and a lot more than what we really think. So when I say love is the answer, I also roll my eyes because it's used in a very irresponsible way. We aren't accountable to the way we hold space for love. Because when we do, the othering will stop. But we, Black people and people of color, have always been othered. And therefore, we've lost our humanity. So we can be treated in a way that someone can put their knee on our necks for 9 minutes and it be okay because we're not fully human in the eyes of a lot of people. And so love shows up and says, tell the truth. And the truth is we are all fully human. And love says, tell the truth. And how do we come together? By first looking at where we are. And let's peel that thing back. Because as we ask for more love in the world, it starts with how we show up. It's my responsibility to be what I want to see in the world. And I think James Baldwin and many, many others, Bell Hooks, Audre Lorde, everyone, they showed up and showed us how to do it, but it's not easy. And I now believe that, and I want to reimagine, and I want Mr. James Baldwin to be wrong and for us to prove him wrong, but he's right now, where he says love is held by only a very few people. Because if we actually do love, we show up like a Martin Luther King, right? We show up like all of the activists that are doing the heavy work of saying we have to stop, but it really doesn't feel good. So we step back from it and we don't want to deal with love in a way that is confronting, accountable, and it requires us to change.
That's interesting.
Ooh.
I mean, because what I think of there is, if we think about relationships, right, that people have, relationships have confrontation because each person is demanding the space for them to experience the love they feel they should have within the situation, right? But now taking that to community and taking that then to world of demanding, confronting for the sake of give me the love I feel I deserve in this situation. That's a very, very interesting. That's a very, very interesting thought. If we come from a point of love me. So not even respect me, not even see me, but love me. That's deep.
It's deep. And when we say love me, first we have to figure out how we love ourselves, like how we show up for love for ourselves so that we know how to show people how to love us. We get taught lots of things, but I don't remember taking a class on love in school in any fashion, right? It's this intangible something that maybe is for romance or family only. Is how I've learned that love shows up. But love shows up in community. Love shows up in how we first look at ways in which we can love ourselves. If I want someone to love me, I can now tell them this is what it looks like to love me. And this is how I can show up to love you, right? And there are many people who have been leading us into that thing, but it does require that we die of our ego, of the idea of, like I said, othering people. It is so much that but there's healing in it, right? There's healing and there's a freedom that comes with when we do look at love in a way that actually does transform and reimagine the world, holding on to what our ancestors did in this love that is true, that is real, that we choose to do, that is intentional, that is something that it grows us up spiritually. I think it's a very spiritual thing when we really think about it. It's not attached to a religion, but it is deeply spiritual, I believe.
Well, I would agree with you, right? Go ahead.
One of the earliest experience that I had in personal growth when I was starting my meditation practices years ago was when I was introduced into metta meditation, which is the loving kindness meditation. So somebody that's a guiding meditation, and if you're not familiar with it, you start by, they tell you to visualize someone you love. And to that person that you love, you say, may you be loved, may you be happy, may you find peace. Then somebody with whom you have a relationship, but it's not that profound, like a coworker or something like that, and you repeat the process. May you be happy, may you be safe, may you find love, may you find peace. And then it goes to different degrees until at some point it is suggested, think of someone that you have strong resentment against. And do it and say it. And I don't remember the way the teacher phrased it exactly, but to me, it represented the people that generated all that violence in my country, the people that were putting bombs and things like that. And it hit me in like a ton of bricks because I thought I could not do that. I could not wish anything good on these people. But then immediately came the realization that I need to wish that, because if it became true, then those acts of violence would not happen. If those people were happy and loved and peaceful, the acts of violence will never be born. So that's why it needs to be expressed. And then the last part of the meditation is to offer that to yourself. May I be loved. May I be peaceful. May I be happy. And usually is when people crack, because that's the one that people are not used to do. They're not used to hold themselves in pure love, in love that is not romantic or from a novel or from a TV show or from a rom-com. It's just a real pure love. So, and then after that, I brought that to my life. And I know we are talking about really serious social issues, but because my social interaction starts with the people who are right next to me, I started applying that to the people very, very close to me, people that were not only my First, obviously, my family and loved ones, but let's say coworkers with whom I had a terrible relationship, that they made my life miserable. And I started applying these principles of just wishing the best and the most love. And I wish you were peaceful and I wish you were happy. These people never bother me again. I'm telling
Let me get the words down. Hold on 1 second, guys. So it's may you be loved, may you be peaceful, may you be cared for, may you be happy.
Well, you can find it. That's a way of phrasing it. But if you search Metta, METTA, Metta meditation, or loving kindness meditation, you will find different ways to phrase it. Yeah. But one way is may you be loved, may you be happy, may you be at peace.
Yes.
So it will be some variation of that.
And I appreciate you saying that. I learned that first from a mindfulness practitioner, Sharon Salzberg. I have her book right here, Real Love. She's practiced meditation for 40 years, the loving kindness meditation. But what I think is beautiful is when you went to, and when we offer it to ourselves is when we crack. And when it's hard to get to that softness here, which is why I start with us. Because we often think we can give people what we can't give ourselves. But if we really look at what we're giving people, if we really gave it to ourselves in a more deep, real way, think about how much more we could really actually give our love to people.
Yes.
Right? People say, no, I love other people more than I love myself. But if you ask those people how you're really showing up in love, they might say, you need to work on it a little bit more, right? And so I think when we put it squarely on us to look at ourselves in love, we are the change. We are who we've been waiting for. So if more of us show up and encourage each other in this way that is real, that is actually looking squarely at ourselves and love, and even when we make mistakes, which we will do, we can get back up and keep going on this journey of love. There is no destination to it. But I love that loving kindness meditation, which I also practice. And like I said in the book, Real Love by Sharon Salzberg, she talks very much about that. But there's so many people. And what I love is that there are people that have been speaking on this love and reimagining and telling the truth in social justice ways, but telling the truth in love, it is opening up a bigger conversation. And I think there is an effect that's happening because we are holding people like police officers accountable, right? But now how do we hold ourselves accountable to keep this thing going? That is the point. Like, this is a great moment for us, but how do we keep going in a way that we truly create community that is loving, that we will be somebody's ancestors one day. So how will we leave them? And we need to do that today, starting with love.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say,
thinking today, being intentional about, I'm going to seed something in today that will live after my tomorrow.
mm-hmm.
So somebody else can walk into it. My children can walk into it. Society can walk into it. So here's my seed today for my tomorrows. Because one of the people, I adore her so much as she is dead, I adore her, is Maya Angelou, because her words continue to speak, right? Even though she's gone, her words speak on. And there's always something she said that you can grab. And there's something she said about be a rainbow.
Yes.
Right. She said that when she was way older, right?
Mm-hmm.
Be a rainbow for somebody else. Take the time out to be a rainbow. Because even if you're just smiling at somebody in the morning and you're just saying good morning, that can trigger for somebody a different attitude from what they originally had if you just allow yourself to be a rainbow. So now if I combine the concept of being a rainbow, being intentional to seed my tomorrows after I'm gone, and then bringing with that this concept of love. Wow. I mean, that's a challenge now for me. I'm like, okay, that's a whole different mindset to take on?
You know, where I saw something that could be applied on a global, like a more social level, but starts with personal relationships. I saw it on the book by Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages. Probably you guys have read it. So there's one where there's an example that he was giving of being, he's a pastor, right? So he's ministering to this woman who has a horrible husband. The guy is awful, and the guy hates her, like hates his wife, just hate. And the minister is like, well, if nobody will blame you if you just want to take a divorce, right? Just end this. You don't have to stay with it. But for her, from her principles and her religion, she just really does not want a divorce. So he has to go with something else. What are you going to do if you cannot get a divorce? If it's not a possibility? And it was just keep loving and being just, you know, keep your interactions short and loving. Keep your interactions short and loving. 2 or 3 months later, the relationship had changed completely. At the beginning, the man was completely doubting everything. He was not buying the act as he was seeing it as an act. But she persisted because it was really important for her that things would change. And eventually they did. They went from two people who really, really hated each other to first 2 people who could live in peace with each other to 2 people who could learn to love each other. So I think one of the most important parts of this message that needs to be put out there is that you cannot kick and scream and then demand that that person that you're kicking and screaming at loves you. You have to say things in a different way. You have to present them. You have to present them with love, because otherwise you're only going to get what you're giving. And these are very painful situations and very painful times. But if you're just screaming your anger and your hate, then that's all you're going to get back. Somebody's going to find a way to just reciprocate exactly the same. So
you're going to create back that energy. I don't know if you guys have heard about Byron Katie. I'm like such a big Byron Katie fan, right? Okay, right? So Byron Katie makes a point in saying, when you're choosing an emotion or choosing a way to act, you're doing it based on you, not based on the receipt. Right? So when I choose to love and I choose to give, it is my choice. And I'm getting from the fact that I've been able to make this choice to love and to give, and that's enough. Now, that's I call it a very mature way to think about life. Because when we think about I'm giving, I'm getting, I'm giving, I'm getting, I'm giving, I'm getting, give me more if you want me to give to you, it almost looks a little childish. Although we all do it, right? So if you stand back and you've watched children, well, I gave you that. No, you need to share, but I gave you mine. Why do you give me? And there's this struggle of be fair to me, give me equal. It's childish. It's what kids do, right? But as you mature, you come into the sense of, what is my responsibility within this planet, and what am I supposed to do with it? Like, what energy am I supposed to give out every day? What am I responsible for? So if we believe now that we want to see change, then each one of us is responsible for giving love, for showing light, regardless, because it's the thing we're on the planet to do, so that our planet can survive and humanity can survive in a healed state. The question I wonder is, how many people would begin to do it?
And you know what?
I want to build on something that Charmaine said earlier about how we other people, right? And I think we've all done it before. I had a coach once that said to me, guess what? That person bothers you, but you can't spot it if you ain't got it. So if you don't figure out why that person is triggering something within you, you will continue to be triggered by every person who has that characteristic. And the situation at the time was, this guy was just driving me crazy. And I realized I thought he was being a phony. He was being very inauthentic. And then I had to look in myself and ask, where am I being inauthentic in my life? And there was a place, and it hurt to look at that. And so I think of this whole situation and looking at things like this police officer with his knee on somebody's neck, and it makes me uncomfortable to look at. And I'm like, where am I holding on to power and doing something, maybe not to that extreme, but even in a small measure? If I'm holding power over someone, I'm doing what he did. And it's uncomfortable to watch and to talk about. And that to me is like, we stop othering when we realize, ooh, that was just a mirror for something I have going on, or it would just go right over my head. It wouldn't bother me if I wasn't doing it in some way too, even if it's a small way.
And that's entirely true, because like we talked about last week, everything around us is just information from within us. So if you're triggered by it, it's something where you have to look in your shadow and see where you're doing it to other people, or where you're even doing it to yourself. And I think what Charmaine was talking about and highlighting is that love is not transactional, it's transformative. And it doesn't always look like puppies and butterflies. It looks like honesty and authenticity. So it's not about the tone, it's about the conversation. Because if in this moment I'm angry, I have the 100% right to express my anger. And let me get through it and be there with me so I can get to the other side of it. And then we can have a conversation. But if I have to repress my anger so that you feel comfortable, we're going to stay on the surface where we are. The truth is at the center of the ocean, not on the surface. So we have to get to the center, and it's not always butterflies, puppies, and hearts and cartoons. A lot of times it's digging in the dirt and being willing to go there with another person. Now, if another person's not willing to go there with you, then you can move them to the side. But if you have a true blue that is really ready to go there with you, then we're going to have a reckoning, and we're going to get to the other side of it, and we'll both be better people because of it. But if we get stuck on tone and attitude and how it's said, and it makes me feel uncomfortable, we'll never get to the transformation piece. It will continue to be a love of transaction.
Right. And one of the sticking points in any culture is the need for folks to conform. Right? I can only receive the message if they speak to me in tones that I respect. I can only receive the message if they lower their voice. Well, actually, any great coach, therapist, teacher, leader knows that most times the real true issue is not the first thing that's spoken. And sometimes that message is, you have to keep listening to find out what it is the real problem. As a matter of fact, if you've ever called customer service anywhere, and you started out with a bunch of, I call it placating, the people that got to tell you all about how important they are first before they tell you what they're calling about. I feel like in my dream world, I feel like a customer service person is probably dying to say, yeah, miss, what do you want? Right? If you have to start the conversation with, I've been with a client with you for 20 years. I am so important. I am Dr. So-and-so. I am Lieutenant. You know what I mean? You have to put a title and all these. Listen, how can I help you? Right? That's the same thing. Do you know that's just as annoying for those people to hear people all that placating and all this before they get to, and can you tell me how to remove this late payment off my thing that I was really late, but I'm entitled to this removal of this late payment because I've been a client, or I've been a member of this or whatever for X amount of years, right? So I say all that to say tone and all that has nothing to do with listen and tell for understanding. If we really truly were listening, and when I say listening, looking, if you can, if the person is in your space, look at them. Am I the only one that when a person is talking, I am listening to your words, but I am looking at your face. I am reading your body language. I know when people go to silence, what it really means. I have we'll put it this way. I make my own assumptions. Do you guys know if nobody's speaking, people make assumptions, right?
Based off the stories, right?
Right. If you're not speaking, we're gonna and I have heard some goodies, right? I've heard some goodies, and I'm like, wow, right? And and here's the deal: there's no one group, there's no one culture in the world that doesn't have intercultural googob, as I like to call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you that I do, and Charmaine, when you said even you have to roll your eyes about love is the answer, I said it a lot. Love is the answer because I believe it. But those that know me know I ooze it. That's my superpower, right? It's love. But it's exhausting in any relationship if you're the only one giving the love. And particularly when the people use love, your ability to give love is a way to manipulate you. They're willing to take all the love that you provide, but you may not, to that group, you may not be deserving of love back because they don't feel like they have to give you.
But I wonder,
Right there with
you tell
respect.
me this.
It's right there with respect, right? I want to be respected. But do we respect everyone? Everyone's deserving of respect. Do we respect everyone? Do we honor people the same way we want to be honored? That's my. I did double dare you for the next. Double dare you. I feel like a little girl when I said that. I did double dare you for the next 24 hours, 48 hours, to look inside. The next time you pass judgment on somebody, you don't respond in kind of, you expect, you the tone or the way they looked at you or the way that they did. What did you give them? The world will give you back exactly what you give it. If you are a nasty, like my aunties, if you are a nasty person with a nasty disposition, you've always got your face frowned up, you can't seem to smile at anybody, you're snapping at everybody, I want you to get ready and be able to take the heat because the world is going to give you all of that back and some. Because that's just, they give you what you get. Now, sometimes the world, you can be so nice and so kind, and the world will crush you because of it.
I'm glad you said that, because what I was just thinking is when you decide to begin this journey, because if you're going to decide now, and we hope we're influencing people to think about this differently, right? That if you're going to decide now that I am going to be a force for good, right? I am going to be a vessel of intentional, right, conscious love. Then when you first start out, you're speaking a foreign language to everybody around you.
Facts.
So a lot of people are not going to be able to digest what you're giving. So you could end up getting a lot of dirt and mud and just on you when you start this journey. But the key thing is let the choice be the power that keeps you, so you don't get tired. Because if it's your choice, and one thing about love and light, right? It's a generating force. So it regenerates you. So if you're truly learning, because as you said, Charmaine, it's a journey, right?
It is.
So if you're truly learning, and it's like you're getting your love muscle up, that stamina to love, right? Because you're not going to get it overnight, right? You may be able to do, I can do a day. And by the time you come home, that love stuff is for the birds. Right?
Even when I was first married, living with a husband, I'm like, he's leaving his underwear on the floor. How am I supposed to love him when he does that? You build that muscle.
But I think, yeah, and I think, Lizzie, what I want to say is it's a practice, right? It's something we must continue to practice every day. I've never met, well, that's not true. So people automatically think, oh, I don't need to know anything else about love. I know how to love. That's not really true. We all have, I thought that. And it took me up until now, 11 years later, to really, I felt like I needed to practice it and be it, because everyone thinks they can just teach love. And I want us to take responsibility in that. If we are saying, I am going to show up in more love and better love, that was my command for myself. How can I love more? How can I love better? It was a command for me first. I can't require other people to do something I'm not doing myself.
Correct.
And so it took me years of learning, falling on my face. You know what Brene Brown says, love is the hardest arena. And you will get your butt kicked in the arena and you will fall to your face. And, you know, not a lot of people, again, back to James Baldwin, they like the idea of it, but the work of it, people will say it all day. They will talk about it. They will profess that they know it. But I would like to challenge everyone, including myself. I never exclude myself. And how do we lean into this more and better? Not from here, but there are people who have come before us who can show us the way, who have, I read book after book after book on a weekly basis of the people in love and in light in all kinds of faith, right? So before I think I know all things, right, I have to really look at it and take it one step at a time. And so my challenge is, before we go out and speak it, because we've done it so irresponsibly forever, that we come back to centering ourselves and getting clear on our responsibility, our accountability to it. And not that we can't love still, but challenge yourself to learn something. You know, what broke me open first in this idea of love, first of all, it was something I always wondered about. As a kid, I would watch people. I would look at them and be like, well, if love is the answer, this world is just not loving. And Bell Hooks, her book, All About Love, was the book that set me on this journey. But she said it wasn't because she was loved. It was the lack of love that she felt, that she realized how important love is, right? When we don't feel love, we realize how important it is. So I think we need to get clear, very clear first, about who we are and where we stand in love. And then we can move forward and talk about it and be about it in a more responsible and accountable way. Self-love in particular has also gotten a bad rap, undeservedly, because it's narcissistic, it's egotistical. But self-love, the true way, if you really do love yourself, you show up in love for other people that is brilliant, that nurtures them as well as yourself, that is not putting one down over the other, but actually life-giving and not life-taking. So I often, when I'm going through my self-love workshops, I tell people this is throw away the idea that the world has given us of all of these, take a selfie, you love yourself. All of these, I love myself because I look cute today. We have to move past all of the surface thoughts about love and challenge ourselves if we want to continue to heal and be free and to hold people accountable and hopefully one day see a time where we are not othering each other anymore. Then we have to start with us. We have to stop with the childish thinking, like you were just saying, Lizzie. You know, when we thought as children, we acted as them. But now that we are grown adults, we have to live into that thing, knowing that it's going to always reveal itself a little bit more. I've been intentionally trying to practice and do this for a long time. And I'm always like, this is so hard still. I show up with new eyes always. I can't think that I've arrived, because then that's where I'm cutting myself off from having the real experience of being with people, seeing people for truly who they are, right? We all want to be accepted, fully accepted and loved for who we are. We want to belong, not fit in. So how do I allow people to belong with me and not have to fit into the story in order to make me feel good? So love requires, it's a dying of all of these things that we have had put on us, that we have had to carry with us, that keep us from seeing each other and loving each other in a very real way. It keeps us othering each other, even in our own communities. Right? And so this is my challenge, is as we all think we have this idea of knowing, dig a little deeper, look a little bit more, be a little bit more intentional. You know, M. Scott Peck says that love is nurturing one's own and someone else's spiritual growth or personal growth. I believe that wholeheartedly. But it's also a dying of all the things that we've built against love. And there's a lot that we have built against love. If we just listen to our thoughts when we meet people, we judge them. As soon as we see them, we have an idea of who they are, right? I say the word love, people have an idea of what they think I'm talking about.
Right.
And most of the time I don't get a chance to lean into, this is actually what I mean. I don't mean what you see on Disney or on TV and they lived happily ever after. That's beautiful too. But there's a bigger story to this world of love. And so there's been many people who are with me, who are doing this work of love. And there are many people that have gone before us, like Maya Angelou. They've showed us how, but we have to get serious about it. We have to stop thinking so surface about it and to really dig in it by first exploring it within ourselves. I just talked about it.
We are at time. We are,
Sorry.
of course, as always, actually overtime.
Let me add one little thing.
Go ahead.
That's what I call radical self-love, where we take the love and radically accept ourselves as who we are. And the piece on othering I just wanted to add is we also have to recognize abundance. If we live in abundance, most of the time people other people because they think they're taking something away from them. When we realize there's enough space, time, and energy for everybody, then everybody is welcome in your space. So I will add to that radical self-love and live in a space of abundance.
And love is not pie. It's not that because you give a little bit, it's less. It's not pie. It's endless.
Okay, you know, just because you give some or a lot away, there's always going to be more, right? I love that. It's not pie.
It's sweet, but it's not pie.
Leslie was like, a what now? Leslie, you know, my mom went right to pie. See, there we go, right on my hips. But yes, anyway.
Give me that pie. So, give me some sugar, but give me some pie.
Charmaine, this has been, oh my gosh, Kay is gonna be like, God dang it, I missed a goodie.
Yeah.
Kay, we are sorry. Watch the replay. This is gonna be
it's gonna be awesome. I want to say thank you to our guests for coming. And I've loved having you on, Charmaine. Oh, I've loved you've inspired and challenged me to come up to another level, and you've made me know, oh my God, it's worse than working out. Okay, because working out, you got to constantly keep, doing to keep yourself in shape. This love thing is like a lifetime kind of thing that you've just challenged me with. Thank you so very much. With that challenge, I mean, I know it's going to make me an even better person, but it's a little scary.
It's very scary.
To be honest, it's a little scary to take on that level of consistent love.
Right. I love Charmaine's journey and Monica's journey. I think actually Charmaine and Monica, you two absolutely need to connect, like for real.
Because they're talking the same thing with a different articulation. It's amazing. It's
fascinating about the journey.
Amazing. It really is. And I have to say, right, I'm putting it out there because I know your schedules are all very, very busy. But I really want to have both of you back.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Come on.
Okay. I really do. Because when we're talking about, and I'm wrapping this because we're over time and I have an appointment, etc., that I got to get into. But when we're talking about this idea of women linking, women won't link well if they don't know how to love, if they don't know how to allow that feminine energy to grow and mature in them so they can truly be the woman they're supposed to be here to be. Without feeling like when another woman is there, that woman is taking something from you in some way, so then you don't make that real link. So I want to keep stirring the conversation, so the thoughts keep stirring in people as they're watching this, so that the intention that I have, so it's somewhat selfish, I'll be honest, okay? So I'm real honest. It's somewhat selfish because I just have this vision of women being able to connect with women to change the world. It's deep on the inside of me, right? It's real deep on the inside of me. I believe the answer the world is looking for is coming through the female vessel, just how I believe.
100%.
Right? Nobody doesn't have to agree with me. It's okay. But it's definitely what I believe. But women have to be built back up from the inside. Because we carry so many weights and we have become so many things and believe we have to be so many things that we have not yet been able to just be. And the power is going to come when I can be, when you all can be, and every other woman can be. Then, wow, we be together and we change. I believe that's when it's going to happen. So I am very, very much on this mission to bring every woman into their elite self, to who they really are. The fact that we are evolutionary, we're evolving. And you have told me I have to keep evolving to get this love muscle going, right? So we are evolving, right? And I'm giving myself liberty, the luxury of accepting who I am with love. That's amazing. But that's a journey that I'm now having to take on. And as I take it on, I have to keep igniting other women to be able to do it so that they will transform through love. And as they're transforming, they become this energy of love that's going to shift this world. So you guys have tapped into something so very deep for me, right? So it's actually a little bit emotional. Actually, just it's a little bit emotional. So my British self is having to like pull in a bit. Yeah. Pull in a bit. Don't need to be showing all this emotion right now. So I am so grateful and thankful to you guys for showing up. I'm so grateful and thankful for my hosts who've been joining me every week and who have bought into this vision and who love women too. I want to see women be better than we've been before. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to our audience for being there. For some new people who watch the show today, thank you so much for being here watching. Please share the show. It's going to be around. Share it with friends. Tell people to come and join the Link Facebook group so we can keep inspiring each other and holding each other up when we get out of breath from trying to love on a consistent basis. So we won't have to try anymore. We'll just be able to be. That's the goal. So thank you guys so much. We will see you next week, Tuesday, and we're hoping we'll have our guests back with us. Is the hope and the prayer. So thank you so much for coming and being here with us. Thank you for being here on the Link. We want to send you love. We want to send you light and let you know that you are awesome. Take care.